If you're looking into giving your camera a new upgrade without actually buying a newer camera, then you're gonna wanna listen to the rest of this video. These are camera rigging accessories made by Falcam, which are one of the easiest ways to build up your camera without using extra tools. In this video, I'm gonna share with you 10 different camera rigging accessories that'll help your shooting experience be much easier and show you how they work and why maybe you shouldn't get some of these, at least not yet. This video is not sponsored by Falcam, as I have bought most of these accessories, although maybe one or two of them have been provided. But other than that, if you've never seen or used Falcam accessories before, that's totally cool because this video will come in handy. Basically, when building up your camera rig for whatever reason, whether it's getting a bigger battery or getting an external monitor, or even using follow focuses for your lenses, you're gonna need accessories to hook up just so that you can go ahead and shoot the way that you want. I use the Falcam F22 system to allow me to do this while still being able to keep my rig quite low profile. Yeah, low profile. And still be able to set it up with the least amount of time. If there's only one accessory that you can get on this list, it would be the top handle. When getting your camera, yes, it's fun to be able to just have in-body image stabilization. But if you don't have that, or if you have a heavier rig, you don't want to hold it with two hands. Instead, you probably want to go ahead and hold it with one. And depending on how big of a lens you got, perhaps you want to mount it like this or mount it backwards the other way. This way you can go ahead and just let it hang and you can get a good comfortable grip and just hold your camera body or lens from the bottom. They do have an alternative to this lens, which is smaller and lower profile, but I haven't gotten around to getting it. But this, if you have big hands, this also does a great job. It's so comfortable with this wooden finish to it on the top and the bottom. They do also have a side handle, but I don't really prefer this as much just because I prefer to have a hand clutch instead. If you don't end up getting a cage to mount this top handle, that's okay. They have a cold shoe adapter that you can get. Otherwise, Falcam makes great cages for different popular cameras. For this one, this is the Sony A7 IV, but they have other ones as like the A7S, the Sony FX30 or FX3, and my favorite, the Pocket 3. Typically when you get a cage, you're going to have different mounting points. There's one on the top, there's one on the side, on the right, on the left, and on the bottom on this Arca Swiss plate as well. You can attach articulating arms, handle, side handle, monitor mount, and similarly on the Pocket 3, you have a F22 mount on the back here, on the right hand side, and it's got a cold shoe on the left hand side. But you could also attach that cold shoe to F22 mount to enable a third side with F22. But since the DJI Pocket 3 is a popular camera by itself, there is something to note that it does have an action camera mount where it allows for a magnetic attachment. It does have a 1/4 inch 20 hole so that you can go ahead and mount things like a little small tripod, which I like to do because I like to have low shots as well. And if you want to use this more for a behind the scenes camera, then you want to go ahead and pick up something like the next item. And that's going to be a 3-inch articulating arm. This also comes in 7-inch and also an 11-inch, which I'm currently using to mount my camera overhead. You can go ahead and mount this here and slide it to the side. Cool. Tighten that a little bit. Get your other camera and just go ahead and slide that in. Loosen up that. And you can go ahead and do something like this, where you can kind of have a POV from the camera lens, or you can have it pointing at yourself depending on what you're going for. But what if you don't have a DJI Pocket 3 and you want to be able to achieve something like this? Well, fortunately, they do have this next item called a MagSafe mount. And you can go ahead and place your phone right at the top. So you can go ahead and slide this on like so, open up your video app, throw on the wide angle, and you can get something similar. But if you want to be more creative and you want to mount this thing on your articulating arm, well then you're going to need this thing. And that's going to be your dual plate. Normally most of these accessories are clamps, but if you want to go ahead and mount two of those clamps together, or at least build them together, you're going to need this double plate where you can go ahead and slide this right on top. Cool, that's locked in. Take your MagSafe and then slide that over top. Adjust it as you want. Mount your phone on top. There you go. Or like this, if you're creating vertical content. You got options. The 3-inch articulating arm is gonna be preferable when it comes to things like action cameras or your phone or the Pocket 3. But where I use the 7-inch articulating arm is going to be mostly for attaching this to a monitor or microphone like I have right on top of my camera at the moment. And that's going to be for like a bigger rig where it's sitting on sticks or a tripod, and you can go ahead and have the room and the weight and support to be able to have a monitor at the end of this and just turn it whichever way that you want without your camera rig falling over. But if you're just that muscular, you can go ahead and hand hold that too. A tip though with these articulating arms is just loosening it as much as you can, and then maybe just tighten it just a little bit so that it doesn't flop around on you. So kind of like half tighten it and then make your fine adjustments and then tighten it all the way, and boom, it's not going anywhere unless you really apply the necessary amount of force. Ooh, yeah, that's stuck on there. Yeah, you can trust another camera on here as long as it's, yeah. Oh yeah, that's not going anywhere. If articulating arms are not the way that you like to mount your monitors, then just stick with this next item, which is, of course, a monitor mount. You can go ahead and slide that over top, and then you can go ahead and twist like so, or you can tilt as you want. You can mount it the other way, and you can tilt back and forth, no problem. You just need to be able to mount an F22 plate on your monitor. I ended up drilling holes in my Viltrox monitor just for the locking pin or anti-twist pin to really sit there nice and flush. And if you're on a budget, you can again apply those same pieces as we mentioned before, the dual plate with the MagSafe. Up close, this does have two ends, one that twists and then the other one that just tilts. And then you can adjust it as you see fit with a hex screw on the inside and on this side with the tightening knob. Again, if you don't get a cage, you can just get the cold shoe version of this where you can just go ahead and tighten this down and still have a tilting mechanism for your monitor. For these last two accessories, we're gonna get a little more creative. The first one is gonna be a suction cup. Now normally I don't see this in use unless you're gonna be using this on a car and are shooting car stuff, which I'm not. But I like to use this to really just go ahead and combine this with an articulating arm and mount something like a small light, like from Jiyun, I think that's their M20, their RGB lights. Like when I'm trying to keep things low profile and minimal gear, not trying to bring light stands, I can go ahead and just mount this on a window or something and just have a suction on there, use an articulating arm, mount that light and just point it at my subject. No problem, no stands and no worries. And then when I'm done, I'm just gonna go ahead and just use one of these tabs at the edges to release the air, and we're good. When it comes to mounting these on cars and glass, most people will use maybe at least 2 or 3 of these depending on how much force that you're exerting on your car and camera. But for me, for what I'm using it for, 1 is good enough, and I decided to get the biggest one just in case. And it's pretty tough. You can mount something like the A7 IV with a camera lens on it, especially if you're using like a wide angle lens or something, no problem. This is how much weight that it's rated for. But of all the accessories that Falcam makes, this is my favorite. Their super clamp. I would like to say this is my most used accessory, but this was just recently released, I think in the past month. And I wish they had released it sooner, but it's all good because I bought like 3 of these because how useful this thing is. The thing that makes this useful is that you're really just able to go to like an edge, a pole, and just clamp onto it, tighten it down, cool. But the thing is, when I use other brands, it's not as steady because they don't have anti-twist holes, so it's gonna hike up the price a little bit more. And it's, tedious to go ahead and just thread it on. But when I use something like the F22 system, I can just take an articulating arm, slide it on, tighten it, and we're good to go. See, that only took seconds. And of course, if I was gonna go ahead and mount my light, I would just throw that on here. I don't have to mess with light stands, mounting them, messing with the settings. No, I just stick on a light here, mount this where I can near the scene, out of the frame, and we're good. These things are pretty stable as well. For my Sirui 85mm f1.4 lens review, I mounted this onto a bench in an indoor tennis court and had my Sony A7 IV with that Sirui 85mm lens, like so. I don't have the lens on me, but I mounted it here, clamped this at one of the bars of the bench, and I just had it pointing me the entire time, and it never budged, never fell, nothing. I was thinking of bringing a tripod because, maybe it's sturdy enough, but I decided to test this setup and it passed. It's one of my favorite ways to rig and just shoot B-roll of myself, or at least go ahead and just create stuff. Because instead of bringing a tripod around, this is like nothing. I could just throw this where my tripod was supposed to go. And save my back. But before you get any of these accessories, there's one big reason why you shouldn't get them, and that's because these F22 plates that you buy by themselves, they can loosen over time. So if you're someone like me who kind of likes to like set it and forget it, if you're mounting things on top of this individual F22 plate, it will loosen over time. I currently have my articulating arm mounted on top of my FX30 like this with the microphone at the end, and I will often just slide it on and slide it off. And over time, this F22 plate will just loosen up on me. Now, the main reason why I use F22 by Falcam is because I don't have to go ahead and pull out a flathead or a screwdriver, whatever. I just slide it on and it's good to go. But occasionally, I do have to whip out the flathead and just tighten it. But it's just a disappointing thing that it's not as grippy as I would like them to be. It does have a grip, but I just wish it was more effective. Sometimes I feel tempted to just put like a rubber O-ring just to make sure it really stays. If I'm shooting for the day, I won't notice a difference. But if I continue to have my setup just sit in the corner of my room as I set it and forget it and load it, hit record over and over again, then yeah, it'll loosen. That's pretty normal, but that's just something to consider if you're using it in the way that I use it. The price of these accessories range anywhere from $20 to $70, so don't feel pressured to buy all these at once. I did accumulate these slowly, and mostly when it comes to like Black Friday sales or Prime Day sales, because that's when they start knocking them off by like $5 or $10. Falcam did provide the 11-inch articulating arm and the Pocket 3 cage, as well as this top handle. Other than that, I bought the rest. In the end, the magic of camera rigging is that you don't have to be locked in to one rigging system. But if there's one thing to look for before buying any accessories for your camera rig, consider using something with quick release, just like Falcam did, and made things much easier for you to use. If you're looking to build a rig on a budget and not Falcam focused, then you can check out this video over here.